Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Suzanne.
I garden and grow cut flowers in my cottage garden and cut flower patch in Devon in the UK.
Hello everybody and welcome along to this week's video. It's really cold actually today. It has clouded over a little bit this afternoon, so it started to warm up, but I'm in my house. Not to say I've not got to go outside again imminently, and I've been outside all morning, but nice cup. It's a mocha. I'm into mochas at the moment, but decaf, not a caffeine person at all. I'm not here to talk about jack-o'-lanterns. This was a little family project that we did yesterday. I'm here to talk about spring bulbs, what I'm doing differently this year, what I'm doing the same, what I'm planting, what I've planted, and what I'm thinking about ordering quickly, and it's sat in a shopping basket but hasn't been checked out yet. So what I did yesterday is I planted 450 bulbs. I'll write that on the screen if I'm wrong. I think it was 450, it might have been 475. But I planted the same Casmasia that I planted last year, which is just the bulk standard. Is it Q Marsh? I'll write it in. I'll put a little picture there as well of that one. I've planted that one again. I just think for the sort of market bouquets that I sell, and if I did any events, I don't sell to florists. So if it's not a specialist variety, I really don't think it would matter. And there's quite a large price difference, so I liked it and I used it, so that's why I've gone with that one again. Although having seen them naturalising really well at RHS Rosemore, I'm not putting them in one of my beds in the cut flower patch anymore, because it's just going to be a waste of space that I could use something else. I was being optimistic on how many I planted. I just looked it up. It was actually 425 I planted yesterday. But I cut them. I planted them in a trench, which wasn't very easy to dig, but it's a trench that will be naturalised. So it was an area that's quite weedy, nettly, grassy, but I'm not going to do anything to amend that. I'm just going to leave it as sort of a wildlife area that it is, but with these bulbs planted in. I also had to plant a few that I had to dig up from last year, which were Red Devon. I'll put a picture in of Red Devon, and also Great Leap. Really love the colour of Great Leap. The Red Devon was possibly a little bit too bright orange, but it was a really good contrast rather than having two that were really similar. But not only that, having the two varieties was invaluable because they flowered at different times, so I didn't have, a huge glut all at once, and then I had the occasional bunch where I had, a mix of both of them in there. And I enjoyed working with daffodils so much last year that I decided to go all out on daffodils this year. I have lots of daffodils that I could cut. You see that I've already planted on the property, on verges and things, and I have huge intention to tenfold that. And I have a huge neck on the floor here, and I'll tell you how many kilograms it is. 12.5 kilogram net, and that's just to add to my verges to really give a huge impact. And if I want to cut those, I can. And I'm actually going to add some of those into my garden as well. But I'm going to the garden's having a huge overhaul this winter. It's being dug up basically when I can get round to that. There are things I want to do better where I've made mistakes in the past. I want to use bulb baskets. I know that is a plastic, but how many times when I'm trying to dig bindweed out and just putting a plant in, you forget that there are bulbs there, whereas if you've got them in a bulb basket, you hit the basket and you'll be like, oh yeah, I've got bulbs there. And I have put 100 of those in the cut flower patch in this trench, and they went in the trench with the few of the Great Leap and Red Devon that I had left, and then these new varieties that I've not grown before.
Narcissus aber.
Okay, so the aber is one of the, oh, I love these, the multi-stemmed varieties. But I did learn last year that whereas most of the daffodils in particular, the single-headed varieties, you cut them when you can only see a crack of colour, a bit like a tulip. They're sort of gooseneck stage, they've got bent necks, that's when you cut those. With these multi-stem varieties, you have to actually cut them when they're properly in flower. So that was a thing to learn, but I really loved the multi-stem ones, and this is a really pale creamy colour with just a subtle touch of orange, or at least it looks subtle in the picture, which hopefully I will add in here in this corner here. So I'm really looking forward to that one, and I've got 50 of those. The abers for one of these multi-stems got a really good stem length as well, so that's 40 centimetres. So that should be perfect, because obviously with the tulips, you for growing them for cut flowers, you pull them up bulb and all, cut the bulb off and grow them as an annual. But because I want to grow these daffodils as perennials, I want to be able to leave some leaf on the bulb so that it can store energy ready for flowering again the following year. So I didn't really want to get anything, because there's a variety which I love called Minnow, and I grew it last year in pots, but obviously it's a really short stem, and it'll be okay for maybe a few jam jars, but not okay for sort of classic retail bunches and bouquets.
Narcissus cheerfulness.
So then another one I'm growing is Cheerfulness, and this variety has got a scent as well. It's got a fragrance which appealed to me, because I like to sell my flowers as having scent, because that is something that is often lacking, not always, but often lacking in bunches of flowers and bouquets that people might get from, say, a supermarket or from a high street floral retailer. So it was important that I had some scent. Not only that, this is, I mean, it says it's an English grown variety, but it's also got the RHS award of Garden Merit. So I'm hoping that's going to be a really good disease resistant, really reliable variety. There's not really a description, so I should describe it myself from looking at it. Again, it's a really pale colour. I didn't want anything too in your face, too bright and garish. A really sort of pale creamy colour with, I suppose, a little bit more of a pale yellow, and a bit like a fried egg, I suppose you could say. Yeah, so that one's not quite as tall, 35 centimetres, but again, first year growing these varieties, it's a bit of an experiment, we'll see. But again, I've done 50 of those.
Narcissus acropolis.
And then Acropolis is a good height again, a good 40 centimetres, which should be good. And again, the pale, not quite white, this one I would say more of a pale cream. Again, I'll put the picture in. And it's a double, so it's, you know, it's quite frilly, and it's got inner and outer petals, and I would say really quite orangey red centre just poking through. So hopefully that will contrast quite well with the other ones that are slightly more yolky yellow. Again, pictures are not always really accurate. Dahlias in particular, I don't know if you're like me, you order your dahlias and then you plant them and grow them, and they're not as true to the picture as perhaps you thought they would be, and perhaps these daffodils are going to be like that as well. We'll have to wait and see.
Narcissus blushing lady.
It's really late now. I was editing the video and I realised that I absolutely forgot to talk about the blushing lady. This is again a really lovely perfumed narcissus, and this one is another one with multi flowers on the stem, and again it's supposed to have a really good vase life and potentially be a little bit later to flower than some of the others. But again, it's a 30 centimetre stem, so whether or not it will be tall enough, we will wait and see. But it does seem to fit all of the criteria for what I'm looking for.
Narcissus sweet love.
You can tell I've been a little bit sensible, because I've grown another one, Sweet Love, which has also got the RHS Award of Garden Merit. again, just because I wanted something reliable. This one's a bit more of a classic shape, you know, sort of the trumpet shape, but it's supposed to be really very quite white, with again the yellow centre. But I wanted to almost replicate what I do when I make a bouquet with a selection of different flower varieties, because obviously early in the spring I'm not going to have a huge selection of flowers, so I'm hoping by having these daffodils of different shapes I can still create quite a nice unique bouquet, just using one type of flower if you like, but all of them, you know, very different, but again using a similar colour palette, which you'll all know if you've seen my work I like to do. I like to sort of pick a colour palette and work to it. I'm not one for, you know, chucking in any old colour. I mean, that can be very nice. I think I had one commission last year where I sort of did have to do that little bit, dual colours, and it just took me out of my comfort zone. It's just not my style, if you like. It doesn't mean it's not a good style, it's just not one that I really enjoy doing. Sweet Love's, I think it's the shortest one I'm growing. I hope it is. It's 30 centimetres. So hopefully I'll be able to get away with that. Again, first year growing them. If they're no good as a cut flower, they can always be lifted and put onto, you know, any of my verges anywhere, just to enjoy myself and the wildlife and insects until they grow. But anyway, those were all the ones I planted yesterday. I've also got this, would I say, it's 2.5 kilogram net. I'll put the picture that they had in the catalogue up for those as mixed, and we'll see what they come out like. But then it's not just daffodils. Let's talk very briefly about tulips. I did order some tulips this year, but not for the cut flower patch. I ordered some tulips for my garden, and I don't usually plant my tulips until November, but actually I did pot some up yesterday, and that was because when my spring bulb delivery arrived, I always get all my deliveries to be delivered to my parents' house, because predominantly I'm out at work, so I'm not here, or if I am here, I'm not in the house, and people ring the doorbell and then they just assume because nobody answers the door that you're not here, and we would end up, well, we do anyway, occasionally those slips that come through your letterbox saying you're going to pick things up from the post office, which is infuriating. So I have all of my things, where I remember, delivered to my parents' house, which is usually perfect, because although my parents do have lives, they do go out, they are retired and they are home a lot more often than I am. But they went on a really impromptu holiday this weekend that they were not intending to go on. I won't go into too many details, but they had to go because somebody else was ill and couldn't go, basically. So they went on this holiday. I was out at work all day. This was on Friday. And I don't have a mobile phone, as you all know, so I got home, checked my messages, and there was a message from the courier saying, "How did we do?" And I thought, oh no, my parents aren't there, I better go and look at where they put these packages, because usually people are very good and they put them in my mum's garden shed, but it actually said on the email, left in porch. My parents don't have a porch, so I was like, oh, it's either been delivered to the wrong house or it's outside. And they were there, the two boxes were outside, and it had rained all day, and I couldn't even pick the boxes up because the cardboard was so sodden that the bulbs were just going to fall out. So I decided to plant some of those tulips into pots, and then I've got a few more here that I've just been drying out in the house by the Arga, because obviously the last thing I want to do is keep them until November but all wet. So I haven't got loads. I think I got 100 tulips, and like I say, they're not for the cut flower patch. And I put a picture in, I just went for a blend. So sometimes you're lucky, sometimes you're not. But because they're not for a wedding or florists or anything, it doesn't really matter. So yes, the purple blend, I put the picture in. And again, as I've mentioned, I'm going to get some bulb baskets so that when I put them in my garden, I know where they are. And I won't cut these. They're just for me to appreciate in the garden. I also showed you the crates of tulips that my friend got me from the film set of Wicked. I'm not going to plant those in my cut flower patch because I don't know very much about the history. I don't know if they're even going to come up. They probably are the single varieties that may well come up again, but I'm not planning on using them as cut flowers. I'm going to plant them in my verges, and if some of them come up, they come up, and if some of them don't, they don't. But what I'm basically saying is I'm not specifically growing any tulips this year for cutting. It's happened the last 3 years. We've had a really cold early spring, and then all of a sudden there's been no intermediate temperatures in between. We've gone from really cold to really hot, and you know, if I remember not last year, before, I'd done 400 tulips, and pretty much all 400, even though they're different varieties and not all supposed to flower at the time, they all flower at the same time. Well, I don't have enough of a market to sell 400 tulips like that. So basically for me, it was, I paid for those bulbs, and you know, some of them are doubles, they can be quite expensive, and I then get no money back for them because I couldn't keep up with selling. And I mean, if you're an event florist, you can get away with putting them in the fridge, but a note on fridges: you can keep tulips in the fridge very well if you have an event. If you're selling a retail bouquet, when you get those tulips out of the fridge, they will blow open and go over really too quickly for a retail bouquet, whereas for an event, they'll look beautiful, they'll probably be perfect, they'll open up nicely, you have them for the event and they'll be lovely. But it will, in my experience, if you know differently, you know, let me know how you've got around that. But in my experience, even if I put the tulips in the fridge just when they're showing colour, their vase life is shortened in comparison to if I didn't put it in the fridge and I put it in a vase. It would have last almost twice as long, which when I'm doing retail bouquets, I want to give people flowers that will last as long as possible. I don't want to give them things that are going to go over that quickly. But yeah, for event work, I think tulips are probably a great thing to grow. But yeah, I'm putting a lot of faith in the daffodils this year, so we'll see. And then a lot of you know I've already started my ranunculus. If I can, I'll go into the greenhouse and I'll put a clip in here of what they're looking like. So I planted some that I dug up from last year because I could. I just dug up from last year, didn't find as many as I thought I did, but anyway, they're just starting to just starting to come along. But then interestingly, I bought some more expensive ranunculus corms and anemone corms from Zoe Woodward Gardening. She did an online shop, and I knew everything would sell out quickly. So I was away at my dressage competition, and the shop opened at 10, and luckily I had ridden, so I borrowed somebody's phone, quickly put my order in. I'd already looked and worked out what I wanted and checked it out, which was good because by the time I got back from the weekend, they were all sold out. But I just ordered, I'll put the pictures in, I ordered ranunculus porcelain and anemone, a pastel mix, and I'll show you a little video of those as well here. But what I was going to say was interesting was how much quicker they started to root and germinate and show life than the ones I'd grown last year. Maybe the temperature just got slightly warmer. I'm not sure, you'd think it would be getting colder now as we're moving on. But anyway, I've got some more ranunculus, but these are my fail-safe. I'm not going to plant these now. I've ordered just Picote Pink and Picote Orange. So yeah, just two more packets of ranunculus, and they are basically so that if anything happens to my autumn stone ranunculus, for some reason they freeze or they get eaten, I've got these as a backup. But also, if they do fine, I'll have these as a second succession. So there's 100 more there to do in the spring, so I'll do those in the spring. And then iris I grew last year. I don't know if I can find any footage of them or pictures, but I can certainly show you a picture from the catalogue. I'm growing exactly the same variety again, which is the King Mauve. I loved it. I'm hoping, when I dug the bulbs up, I moved them from my cut flower patch into my garden. So I'm hoping when I dig my garden up that I find them so I can put them in a basket, and I hope they'll regrow in my garden because I really, really like them. But yeah, love the colour, definitely going with that colour again. I need to get those planted in the cut flower patch fairly imminently, but I'm a bit swamped with jobs out there and it's a bit difficult to know where to start. One of the things that's holding me up is I stupidly said that I would do some flowers for a party which is on the 21st of October, so that's Saturday, which we're heading towards. So I've been holding on to flowers which ordinarily I would have just got rid of now, just in the hope that I might be able to use some of them for this project that I've got. 16 table decorations and 2 larger arrangements. But because my season has officially closed, I have actually ordered some flowers in. British flowers, I only use British flowers, so I've ordered them in from Clowance down in Cornwall. But hopefully I'll have, because I haven't ordered a huge amount, hopefully I will still have some things holding on that can go with them. But anyway, that's why I'm a little bit held up now on things, because basically I will cut anything there on Thursday morning, and then it's next weekend it can be all systems go, you know, chop everything down, get everything planted. But anyway, I'm rambling again. So then I've ordered alliums. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of alliums for cut flowers because of the smell. I don't like it, but I'm a huge fan in the garden, so I've ordered these for my garden. So again, going in bulb baskets. I have a few alliums in my garden already. I have the really big, hang on, hold this thought. I have this, is it Christophi? Look at that, isn't that spectacular? I only have a handful of those, and they are a bit, I didn't want to go with something quite that big, mainly because my garden's not big enough. I think if you've got a humongous garden with massive herbaceous borders, then yeah, by all means go that big. But I have gone with allium super glow mixed, and these were a bit of a last minute order. I think I placed the order and then I went, oh, more allium. So I've ordered 50 of those. Kawani and allium spherocephalon. I hope that's right. As you all know, if you follow my channel, pronunciation isn't my strong point. And then in my shopping basket, I've got some British bluebells that I think I would cut some of them, but they're more to, because I'm doing this huge overhaul of my cottage garden, I'm going to reduce the colour palette. So whites and purples, there's still going to be the odd bit of pink in there because I've got too much pink stuff to get rid of. But I think all the reds and yellows are going to come out, but possibly some of the really deep, almost bordering on plummy reds might stay because they're almost a plummy purple, if that makes sense to you. This is not all set in stone, but anyway, I'm thinking that some bluebells in the spring might be quite nice. And I have the shade bed, which is all along my neighbour's wall there, which is predominantly white planting. So I want to try and add a bit of sort of other colour in there, but things that will be okay in the shade. So I'm thinking that bluebells might work quite well. So that's in the basket. And also the other thing in my basket are the like giant snowdrops. I think it's Galanthus I'm not sure of the rest of that. But again, I've also got a lot of white in the garden already, and I don't want to take all the white out. So I think if I keep some white, and I've got quite a lot of foliage, silvery foliage, so that's what I'm thinking. So I've got those things in my basket. I probably will check them out, but I've still got, what did I say? I planted 425. I only took 100 bulbs out of that 2.5 kilogram sack, and you can barely tell I took anything out of it. So I reckon there's probably 400 bulbs in that sack alone. Probably about 700 bulbs there to plant, and that, by the way, doesn't include the crates of tulips that I've got out there to put. So I've probably got, in those crates there are hundreds and hundreds of bulbs. I probably will not plant them all. Anyway, not to bore you, I've got a lot of bulbs to plant. I was really chuffed when I planted the 425 and thought what an achievement was, but that now seems like a bit of a drop in the ocean. And then I nearly forgot, but I've ordered some crocus as well. Again, I did order some crocus previously, sorry, my dog's nose. And not all of them came up, and I'd just like a few more. And again, that's on the verge. The bees really like them early on. I can't remember what colour crocus I ordered. In the white, I'll put a picture, Chrysanthus Advance. They might not be white. This will be a surprise to me as well. The ones I've got already are white, so maybe I got something different. I really can't remember. Anyway, I hope I haven't bored you telling you all about which varieties I'm growing this year. Thank you very, very much for watching, everybody. I hope you have the opportunity to get some of your bulbs in the ground at the weekend. I think it's going to be wet, which, although it's not great for working in the wet, my soil for bulbs anyway, it makes the turf much easier to lift. So I'm not afraid to pop a coat on and go out and do that. But good luck with doing yours anyway, and I'll see you in the next video.